If you are into sharks, and I mean really into sharks, there are quote-unquote best places all over the world for you to get up close and personal with them. You can see the really big and scary great white sharks at Guadalupe Island in Mexico, and you can't beat the visibility at Guadalupe Island for cage diving with great white sharks. But if you are like my friends and I, you won't want to be stuck in a cage to spend time in the ocean with sharks. The best place to dive with baby great whites, also known as Caribbean reef sharks, happens to be the Bahamas. The Bahamas has no river runoff, so the water clarity doesn't get any better, and there are a couple dive operations that specialize in reef shark diving in Unexco and Stewart Coves. But the best shark diving on the planet, in my opinion, is the tiger sharks at Tiger Beach in the Bahamas. No cages holding you in, crystal clear Bahamian visibility, and you get to be up close and very personal with these massive predators.
Keep me out of your live videos, Eli. I want a government know what my face looks like.
That's too late, buddy.
Yeah, I know it is.
It's all over Pornhub.
And here, after spending a few days, you will learn to love and respect them, just like the thousands of other scuba divers who have come before you do. I am not a shark expert. I am not a marine biologist. I'm just a scuba diver who fell in love with sharks about 14 years ago. I have done 4 week-long trips to Tiger Beach and thought I would make this video for people's top 10 questions about Tiger Beach in the Bahamas. As a disclaimer, everything you are going to see and hear in this video is solely my opinion, so if you disagree with anything, feel free to discuss your opinions in the comments below. Of course, after you like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell for future videos from this channel. So without further ado, let's get into it. Question number 1. Where is Tiger Beach? Well, if you were to draw a line from West Palm Beach, Florida to West End on Grand Bahama Island, you would have to cross the Gulf Stream. Tiger Beach is in the Bahamian waters at the edge of the shallow waters created by the Bahamas Bank on the way back to Florida, almost on that line. I always go on the Dolphin Dream for my week-long visits, and after checking into West End, we motor out to Tiger Beach and anchor there for the entire week. It is in anywhere from 30 to 45 feet of water, and if the calm seas, we don't move all week. If the seas are a little rough, at night, Captain Scott moves our boat to a shallow protected area not far away at night.
You think this is so funny, don't you?
What happened?
I got skin bends.
How did we get skin bends?
Because I was really scared, and after my safety stop, I shot to the surface to get out of the water.
What is the lesson to remember for all other divers out there?
Don't go faster than your bubbles.
There you go. What kind of sharks will you see? Interestingly enough, the answer has changed just in the last 3 years that I've been diving here. 3 years ago, we only saw tiger sharks, reef sharks, lemon sharks, and occasional nurse shark. However, my last 2 trips, we have had the addition now of bull sharks and a couple local great hammerheads, who seem to have made Tiger Beach their home, one of which is named Patches. With the Bahamas making their waters a shark sanctuary, hopefully we will continue to see the numbers and diversity increase over the years. Sadly, a few weeks after my last trip in the fall of 2018, video footage was released of over 20 large tiger sharks being killed by locals because they were feeding off of a whale carcass that had floated too close to the Bahamian shore. So while I applaud the Bahamas for making their waters a shark sanctuary, there is still work to be done with locals to make sure that everybody understands the importance of protecting this species. It would absolutely break my heart if I returned to Tiger Beach and didn't see any of the girls that I have come to know and recognize over the past few years.
Adios.
No. Si tú go, yo no go. If you go now, I go to the...
You go to the bar?
I go to the beer.
All right, I'll wait. Okay, mucho rápido.
Unscrew the smile, take some nice deep breaths.
Flight attendants.
7 tigers, baby.
7 tigers, I know. Alice, and the bowl. All we need is Pat to show up. Come out of nowhere.
So question number 3. What kind of experience do I need to dive? So to experience the tiger sharks of Tiger Beach, the great majority do so while scuba diving on a liveaboard dive boat. On a day trip from the Bahamas, or perhaps a long weekend boat trip. A select few do so while freediving. I have no experience with this, so I defer to guys like Reef Hunter as the best I know in that area. All you technically need is to be open water scuba certified. I would argue that your first open water dive should not be at Tiger Beach, but I have seen some people make this their first dive in the ocean after being certified. Personally, I think you should be not only very comfortable as a diver, having already committed all the rookie mistakes without large sharks around you, then perhaps ease into shark diving with some nurse sharks, lemon sharks, or Caribbean reef sharks a few times before jumping in with the big girls at Tiger Beach. Technically, the only requirement is an open water diver certification, but the real requirement is being very comfortable in the water with a large predator swimming around you.
So what are the accommodations like on the boat? So there are a few options for visiting Tiger Beach for the week. However, I have only ever been on the Dolphin Dream with Captain Scott Smith. I do know you can do weekend trips with SharkDiverTravels.com and Lee Cobb. Jim Abernathy runs week-long trips. Epic Diving is there all the time. Master liveaboards. But my absolute favorite is when I'm with Eli Martinez and SDMDiving.com. Watching him with tiger sharks is worth every penny. On the Dolphin Dream, they feed you 3 meals a day. There are more snacks than you can ever eat, and your choice of beverages whenever you want them. In the 4 weeks I have lived on this boat, I have never gone hungry or thirsty. You sleep in shared bunk bedrooms, but you have to hang out wherever you want on the boat all day long. It is a 2-story boat, so there are plenty of places to go whenever you want to be by yourself, or congregate when you want to be around other people. The crew on Dolphin Dream are fantastic, and they have made every trip super fun for me. I don't have a ton of dive boat experience, but based on the trips I have been on, I have absolutely no reason to want to try any different operation, because quite frankly, I love the Dolphin Dream. Houston.
The people I tend to go with dive hard all day long and tend to hang out and have a few at the night sharing stories. And that's really all I'm looking on a good dive boat, and quite frankly I've had that every time I've been to Tiger Beach. So do you need your own gear or passport? Unless you are a Bahamian citizen leaving from and returning to the Bahamas, you will need a passport to visit Tiger Beach. We always depart from West Palm Beach, Florida, an overnight motor over to West End on Grand Bahama Island in the Bahamas. In the morning, the captain checks us into the Bahamas, and then we motor on out to Tiger Beach about 4 hours kind of back towards Florida. The captain keeps your passport all week long until you return back to the USA, and at the end of the week, you clear customs to get back in the United States again. In terms of your own gear, I would think that most people do bring their own gear, but I know you can rent gear from the Dolphin Dream vessel as well if you need to. On the trips I have been on, I think just about everybody brought their own gear to dive with, which included, mask, BCD, fins, and regulator. I normally wear about a 5mm wetsuit when I go on, only because I would get cold kind of easily while diving, personally. Especially when you dive 3 or 4 times a day, you tend to get cold. I've only been in during October trips and January, and quite frankly a 5mm was perfect for me on both occasions. You will also need to have gloves and boots so that you do not show exposed skin on the bottom of your hands and feet. Sharks kind of may mistake that for fish. Many of the boats recommend wearing black or blue wetsuits. Nothing with bright colors that sharks would be attracted to, like crazy hot pink fins or a neon hood with a yellow stripe down the middle. That would just be insane, wouldn't it? But if you're worried, when in doubt, wear black. So in terms of the diving conditions, my first trip here, I was spoiled. It was like diving in a swimming pool with the clearest water the Bahamas has ever experienced. We sat in the same spot all week and never moved. My second trip was a crossing from Florida from hell, and we had to spend 2 days sitting in the marina at West End, Bahamas before we could go diving. The water clarity in the second trip was okay, but getting on and off the boat was not for the faint of heart, trying to time the waves. My last 2 trips were kind of in between, a taste of both sides. What I have learned is this: you can't guarantee anything in nature. The Bahamas does have some of the clearest water in the world because there's no river runoff, but with a storm or tidal change, your visibility can be ruined anywhere. I have gone enough where I don't dive unless the visibility is really good at Tiger Beach. I tend to try to film everything with my GoPro, and unless the visibility is good, I don't want to be in the water. Don't like being nervous around not seeing a tiger shark sneak up on me, and I really hate seeing other divers with their faces stuck behind a camera have near misses all the time. If you were there for a week, odds are you're going to have some great days of diving with excellent conditions. It is in my opinion that you shouldn't be pushing it at Tiger Beach if the visibility isn't good. Tiger sharks are really good at sneaking up on you naturally, so there's really no need to give them even more of an edge in bad visibility. There are some really great reefs at the dive location. I personally like to be out away from the reefs on the sand during the feed so that I can see the tigers come up behind me. It just kind of provides that contrast in the sand so you can see them well. They blend in really well against the reef, and my vision isn't that great anyway, so if you want to err on the side of safety when you go, just make sure there's plenty of sandy bottom around you so that you and others can see them coming easier. If you are more adventurous or more experienced, stay closer to the reef for some beautiful pictures of the tigers coming up over the reef, but keep your eyes peeled. What tips do you have while diving here? Well, the number one rule is to keep your head on a swivel. You have to always keep looking in every direction so that a tiger shark does not get to touch you. Bottom line, number one rule, don't let the tiger shark touch you. Way too many people get stuck with their heads behind a camera trying to get that perfect shot, and a tiger shark gets very close to them without their knowledge. I have only spent 4 weeks there over the last 3 years, and I have seen a lot of close calls in that time. Almost every one because a camera and the diver not paying close enough attention. If I was the dive operator, quite honestly, I would not allow cameras on the first day of diving unless the diver had been there before with me and I knew they were experienced with tiger sharks. The second tip is to really focus on counting the tiger sharks on every dive and communicating with everybody else how many tigers there are down there with you. When I am there, I am non-stop counting the tiger sharks. I don't pay attention to the many lemon and reef sharks, and barely pay any attention to the bull or hammerhead sharks, although they will often get really close to you as well. If you have 4 tiger sharks down there, it is a non-stop count to 4 trying to identify where each one of them is the entire time. Sound is also a very big safety item that you should focus on down there. On the Dolphin Dream, they use a duck sound or a shaker. This is the universal signal for turn the fuck around. It does not mean, hey, look over here, I'm trying to identify where the sound, or try to identify where the sound is coming from. Somebody is using that sound because somebody down there has a tiger shark sneaking up on them that they don't see. You kind of also learn how serious a situation can be by the intensity of the rattle or the intensity of the duck call sound. Bottom line is if you hear that sound, spin around immediately to make sure it isn't you with an 800-pound tiger shark about to take a bite out of you. So, how many tiger sharks can you expect to see on a single dive? So on my very first dive at Tiger Beach about 3 or 4 years ago, we had one tiger shark named Hook on the very first dive. She stayed with us through 4 dives a day for an entire week, and we had as many as 5 tigers on a single dive that week. I would say we averaged 2 or 3 a dive back then. This past trip in October of 2018, we had as many as 9 tiger sharks on one dive. But I would say we averaged 4, maybe 5 a dive. It is largely going to depend on how many dive operations are there for the week. If you are the only boat there for the entire week, you can expect to get a lot of tiger sharks on every dive, in addition to possibly a great hammerhead and maybe a bull shark. If there are a few boats there, the tigers are going to be split up, and each boat will have a few tigers. Usually 1 or 2 tiger sharks is a relaxing and enjoyable dive. Once you get to 4 tigers, you really kind of have to be on your toes and work to keep track of them the entire time. I had one dive with 9 tiger sharks that was the dive of a lifetime for me. It was extremely enjoyable because all the tigers were very chill. I was relaxed, the divers were experienced, and it was a lot of fun. I have also been on a dive where there were 7 tigers that were extremely irritated, with a couple of new divers who were pretty scared, and visibility deteriorated to the point where we had to call off the dive for safety. So you're going to get anywhere from 1 to as many as 9 or even 10 tigers on a dive, but your experience is really going to be related to who's down there with you, what's the water clarity, and what's the personality of the sharks that are there with you. So how many dives a day? It depends on the trip, honestly. When I normally go with Eli Martinez from SDM Diving, we like to get in 4 dives a day, and Eli likes to feed on just about every dive. I have also been with another crew as a last-minute add-on, and they only did 3 dives a day, and they alternated between a feeding dive and just a swim around. I typically personally only do about 3 dives a day at most myself, even if everybody else is doing 4 dives a day. What photo are you working on, Eli?
Working on my 5 tigers in 1 frame shot right now.
Is that the most you've ever had?
Definitely the most I've ever had in 1 frame. I'm super stoked about that.
How dangerous is it? Has anybody been bitten or killed? So, this is really the million-dollar question for people new to Tiger Beach. You are going to be diving with very large predatory sharks who could easily kill you if they got a hold of you, which is why the #1 rule is to not let a tiger shark touch you. There is no bigger rush than the first time you are on the floor of the ocean by yourself and a 1,000-pound, 14-foot-long tiger shark starts swimming directly towards you, and you realize if you don't do something, this is going to swim right through you or worse. It's kind of a really big gut check. You know all it understands is predator or prey. To a tiger shark, you are either a predator or prey. So when you have the experience for the first time, I suggest you make eye contact with that shark and give it a look that says, "I'm going to fuck you up if you come over here." And don't break eye contact. You hold your ground, and if you need to push down on the top of the head and away from you to gently guide the shark's head away from you, that's fine. The reality is the shark smells fish, and the only reason he is coming to see you is to ask you politely if you have the fish. But the first time that happens, it is a massive rush, and a memory you will never forget. It usually happens at the end of a feeding dive when there is no more fish and the scent is still in the water. And the tigers are just going to go around all the divers to see if they have the fish that the tigers smell. After my last dive on the first trip I ever went on, I came out of the water and I said, "I can't believe nobody here has ever been bitten." And the captain started laughing and said, "Who told you that?" When you were diving at Tiger Beach, once you were in the water, you were really only paying attention to the tiger sharks, and maybe the bull sharks and hammerheads. Reality is, there's a ton of lemon and reef sharks there as well. While bites are exceedingly rare, they do happen, but not from the tigers. It's usually the lemon and reef sharks that grab a hand, normally because somebody tried to touch them, or they were waving their hand around, or without a glove on, which provides the motion and contrast in color necessary to elicit a bite. The gear and behavior suggests the dive boat covers are designed to minimize those risks. Bites from tigers are rare and usually result in damaged gear rather than any physical damage to a person. More often than not, a tiger will gum somebody's gear, realize they're not food, and let go. The only shark-related deaths I have heard of at Tiger Beach are from a bull shark that bit a man's calf. The injury was allegedly stabilized on the charter, but the man later bled out when the wound was being reassessed and redressed by rescuers. Another one occurred when a diver surfaced behind the boat and was subsequently told to go down and return to the vessel from the sea floor to avoid a predation response from the tiger sharks. You never want to be at the surface of the water around tiger sharks. The man was never seen again, but parts of his gear were found later with markings consistent of a shark attack. Because his BCD clips were undone, it is speculated that he tried to remove his gear in an attempt for an emergency ascent and did not make it. It is also likely his gear was attacked after it was removed, and there is no real indication that he was ever eaten.
So I hope you enjoyed this little movie about my experiences at Tiger Beach and answering the top 10 questions that are most commonly asked by other scuba divers who are thinking about going. It really is going to ruin you in terms of diving with sharks anywhere else in the world. I do believe this is the best shark diving there is on the planet. The rest of this video is just some cool outtakes. As you can see here, I'm trying to take an outdoor shower, and our good friend Houston from the Dolphin Dream keeps putting more and more shampoo in my hair, unbeknownst to me. And after that, we have just some other clips that I didn't really get a chance to make into the movie that I thought were kind of cool that people might want to see. If you can, do us a favor and click that subscribe video on YouTube, or give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions, we enjoy the comments. It helps us quite a bit on YouTube. So if you subscribe, like, give us a thumbs up, maybe even click that little notifications bell to let you know anytime there's other films coming out from our channel. We appreciate it. Thanks, and hopefully get a chance to dive with some of y'all soon. Bye-bye.